Hello everyone and welcome to another video Dvar with Rabbi Chaitovsky here at BMH-BJ. This week's Torah portion is the Torah portion of Balak. And Balak was a king, the king of Moab, and he had it in for the Jewish people, and he hired a pagan prophet or sorcerer named Billam to curse the Jewish people. And we know that Billam tried a number of times to do this, but God had already warned him that he was only going to be able to say the words that God placed in his mouth and in his mind. And try as he did to curse the Jewish people, he ended up blessing them. And one of the all-time great Jewish tefillot that's emblazoned on the walls of many synagogues, and it is said in the Siddur as one enters a synagogue, are actually the words of Billam, who said, Ma tovu ohalecha Yaakov mishkanotecha Yisrael, how beautiful, how good are your tents, O Jacob, your dwelling places, O Israel. And it's interesting, raises a lot of questions about what kind of person Billam really was. He had a relationship with God, he was some kind of prophet, but he tried to turn his back on God and curse the Jewish people, and it didn't really go his way. And Billam, together with Balak, are considered enemies of our people, at least early on in their archetypes of enemies of our people. And it's interesting that the Gemara, in discussing this story, has the following. It says, Amar Rabbi Abahu ben Zutraiti, that Rabbi Abahu, the son of Zutarti, used to say in the name of Rabbi Yehuda bar Zvida, Bikshu likboa parshat Balak b'kriyat Shema, that the rabbis actually wanted to include the story of Balak and Billam in the passages that we know as the Shema. They wanted to include the story as another Torah passage together with the 3 paragraphs of the Shema. Umipnei ma lo kva'uha, why did they not establish it? Why didn't they include it in the text of our morning prayers? Mishum Torah Tzibur, because of the burden to the congregation, ostensibly because the prayers would be lengthened, and we know that nobody wants to sit through long tefillah. There's no such thing as a prayer service that's too short, apparently. And that makes sense. We are very sensitive to tircha de tzibura, and there are many halachot about that, but I would like to propose another explanation as to what tircha de tzibura, what the burden to the congregation might be here. You know, when thinking about ourselves, when we're looking in the mirror, we don't always like what we see. And then along comes an outsider, whether it's an editorial in the newspaper or something on TV or a speech made by someone that says glorious things about the Jewish people, says marvelous things about the gifts that the Jews have given to the world, and we feel energized and we feel uplifted. And it's great. Every now and then we need to hear positive reinforcement from an outsider. But I wonder how we would feel if every single day the reinforcement we got was from an outsider. The words, Ma tovu ohalecha Yaakov mishkanotecha Yisrael, how great are your homes and your tents, O Israel, those came from an outsider. And while it was certainly great praise coming from him, to include that in our daily prayer and to be confronted every single day with the positive reinforcement from an outsider who had it in for us, would be devastating to us morally and psychologically. Because we have to be able to look in the mirror and we have to be able to honestly assess both that which is not as good as it could be and honestly assess that which is really good and positive about ourselves. And we don't have to rely on the opinions of outsiders, certainly not every single day. It's much healthier for us to have a positive self-image. And if things are not going well, to be able to look in the mirror and say, here's what I know I need to do to get better. So the rabbis were very smart. From a psychological point of view, tircha de tzibura, the burden to the congregation, was really, from my perspective, burdening us, burdening our psyches with positive reinforcement only from an outsider, as if to say that there is nothing positive that we could ever say about ourselves, and we know that that's not the case. We have to be sure in the future that that will continue to not be the case. So Billam's words are great, but our own appreciation of our own strengths and our own honest assessment of our weaknesses is really what counts. And that's the story we learn in this week's Torah portion about Billam and Balak and his trying to curse the Jewish people, but really ends up blessing them. Shabbat Shalom. I'll see you in Shul.